on this computer recording. Okay, good afternoon, everyone here in Israel, and good morning to our speakers, Diane and Yehuda in New York. I think it is just 9 o'clock in the morning in New York, okay? So yes. Welcome to all our members, to all our guests, and the overseas ones as well. It's really lovely. I was hoping that Susan Rosenberg would join us because she's our founding president, and she just celebrated the birth of her 44th great-grandchild this week. So I was going to wish her Mazal Tov with all of you around, but I think there's something else on in her family today, and she said she would try and join us, but I guess it's too much happening. I'm also pleased that so many of you have been joining the Zoom socials that we've been running. These are the 40-minute informal chats that we've been having on a Tuesday afternoon at a sort of a slightly later time. Oh, wait a minute, Susan is coming on, so I'll say that again in a minute. So these Zoom socials, we have a little topic that we discuss for a few minutes, and then we actually can have a chat amongst ourselves, because it's usually about 16 or 18 people coming on. This is Israeli time happening now. This is the 4 o'clock plus. So I was sitting with my cursor on the top of the screen, admitting people as I'm talking to you. Okay, I want to say, Susan, you can hear us, yes? Susan?
Yes.
You can hear us? I just said I hoped you were going to join, because we all want to wish you Mazal Tov on your 44th great-grandchild.
Thank you.
So that's lovely. So I'm muting everybody, otherwise, okay. Marilyn Hyman seems to be having a problem joining, but hopefully she'll be. Oh, Marilyn, you are there. Good. You are there. Lovely. Right. So I've already welcomed you generally. As I say, we've got new people adding to our audience as we go along. Today's meeting is dedicated to the Special Emergency Project for COVID-19 equipment, particularly special monitoring equipment at Hadassah Hospital. And today, the dedication is from Joanna Ben Yehuda to mark the first short sight for her husband, Chaim Zichrono Livracha. She would have liked to have joined us this afternoon, but they are actually having Haskara at the graveside today. So she sent her best wishes, and we thank her for her generous donation. Stan and I are also dedicating this meeting to celebrate 20 years since we arrived in Israel. That's 20 years during October since we arrived in Israel. So far this year, our chapter has managed, in spite of the problems, to raise over 13,000 shekels. And of this, 10,000 or so is for this special COVID-19 emergency project. I want to thank all of you who sent in donations, who've called up Hadassah in Jerusalem and been in touch and offered donations sort of independently of as well as at our fundraisers that we've managed to hold. Okay, if you'd still like to make a donation, anyone, we don't charge for the Zooms. If anyone wants to make a donation, get in touch and I'll tell you how you can do it. Okay, so let's get on to why you're all here, which is to hear our speakers, Diane and Yehuda. Diane and Yehuda Romm, this is a lovely bio Diane sent me. I wish all speakers would send me lovely, concise little bios that are exactly what they needed. They live half the year in New York and half the year in Haifa, in the building right next door to us, of course. After years of working as a library chairperson for a public school district in Long Island, Diane embarked on a second career as an academic editor. Yehuda spent many years as a pulpit rabbi in Long Island. They have 2 sons, 2 daughters-in-law, and 7 grandchildren, all of whom live in New York, which of course explains their pattern. Today, they'll share with us some of their current experiences of life in the USA, and specifically their topic, Hakafot in the basketball court, Simchat Torah during COVID-19 in New York. Over to you, Diane.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And it's lovely to see everybody. I thought that before we started, we would try to give you some sense of where exactly we are. We are in New York. It is now 5 minutes after 9 in the morning here. We've just had our morning coffee. Lee, I think if you can share your screen, we can start with our little geography lesson.
Okay.
Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with New York, this is a map of the city of New York, which has 5 boroughs. Manhattan, which is what you see in the sort of orange color there, is what most people think of when they say, I'm going on a trip to New York. That's the area where there are the main tourist attractions. You have the Broadway theaters when they're operating, and the major museums and all of the tourist attractions there. Then you have the outer boroughs. If you look down to the right-hand side, you can see Brooklyn and Queens. And if you look over to the left, you can see Staten Island. If you look to the north of Manhattan, you will see the 5th borough, which is called the Bronx. And that's where we live. Lee, next slide. So a little demographic interesting factoid is that before World War II, the Bronx was more than 50% Jewish. Today, it is the most Hispanic of the 5 boroughs of New York City. And really the only remaining Jewish enclave of any size is in the northwestern corner, in the area that's sort of marked in a lighter blue, which is called Riverdale. And as you can see, it actually constitutes only a part of that blue area. We live specifically in the area in the upper left-hand corner there that says North Riverdale. It's right on the border between New York City and Westchester County. Lee, next slide. Okay, so this is a picture of our apartment building. It is one of 3 apartment buildings like this that are on a campus. There are 20 stories to the apartment building. There are 24 apartments on each floor. I'll let you do the math, but you can figure out that there are more than 1,500 apartment buildings, apartments just in this particular enclave. We look south. Lee, next slide. And this is what we see out our window. As you can see, the leaves are starting to change color on the trees. We are in autumn, or what Americans call fall. If you look to the, we look south toward Manhattan. So if you look to the left-hand side, you can see the Manhattan skyline. You can then see the George Washington Bridge, which goes over the Hudson River. It connects New York to the other side, which is New Jersey. And I'll come back to the point about the changing leaves later on. Lee, next slide. When you look to the side, as you can see, we look out over the Hudson River and the cliffs, which are called the Palisades, which you can see in the far view, that's New Jersey. Okay, so that kind of places us within time and space. Now a little bit about our experiences. Even before COVID-19, we were in a kind of unusual position because our synagogue here was under construction. So we started davening in, oh, actually, Lee, I need you to share the screen again for the next shot. Sorry about that. So we started davening in, there we go, the the local yeshiva high school. This is called SAR High School. It's a school that houses students grades 9 to 12. It's co-ed. It's Kita Tet to Yud Bet. In British terms, Lee, is that forms 3 through 6?
You said
Grades 9 through 12.
That's the teenage ones, yes, the upper ones.
Yes, right.
But that would, well, we call it lower and upper six. I mean, we don't have numbers for it. I suppose use 11, 12, and 13.
Okay, all right. There are about 600 students in this school. And of course, before COVID-19, we were davening in the school on Shabbat, no problem. Then COVID-19 came, the school shut down. It went to online instruction, and we no longer had access to the building. Therefore, we started davening outside. Remember, this was March, April, May, springtime in New York. The temperatures were sort of reasonable, so it was doable. And we started to daven in the area, which is where you can see the kind of black asphalt there. That's an area that leads into a driveway and a field behind the school. So we were davening pretty much right where the asphalt area is. Then the high holidays came. And of course, the logistics became much more, as they say in Hebrew, misubach, much more complicated. And to explain exactly what happened as a result of that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Yehuda.
Well, we don't need the picture.
Okay.
COVID-19 restrictions imposed upon us by the city were faithfully followed by our congregation and our synagogue. Crowds had to be under a certain number, and I don't think we had more than 50 people in one cluster. Services for Rosh Hashanah were staggered, and there was one service that was inside in a hockey rink, which Diane has a picture of.
Yes, you can show the next slide.
The indoor gym, but this is the basketball court. It's a similar thing without the baskets, with the hockey setup for indoor hockey. And we had to follow social distancing with the seating. Our seats were in the upper field, which is about 3 stories high, because Riverdale is hilly, and most of it is this famous New York schist, which is a very hard stone, which enables skyscrapers to be built, on the surface of New York. So it's about 3 stories high where the outdoor field was. And one of the features about this was it was exactly behind where our synagogue that is being reconstructed and built, it was directly above it on Riverdale Avenue. And if you looked across the street at eye level, down at the street, there's a Catholic church across the street. What I never noticed until we had services up on that field for Rosh Hashanah, we signed up worried about coronavirus for the outdoor services, was we looked directly at the church's steeple with a very big cross. So if you're thinking of this as an outdoor sanctuary, I think this is the most Christian, service that we had, because we were staring, if you wanted to look up and not looking down at your siddur, at this very big cross that looked like it was on a pedestal from our view from 3 stories up, in this field. We davened with social distancing. Little circles were painted on the field. Part of the field was AstroTurf, that kind of artificial grass. Part of the field that was a basketball court, the outdoor basketball court, was of course asphalt and whatever they paved the fields with. We sat in folding chairs that were in the circles, and we had to wear masks. Now I have to put this mask on. Well, you can't see that. You have the thing open.
Yeah, you can stop the sharing of the screen, Lee, I think, at this point.
Right. So,
there we go.
You're sitting there in a mask. This is my official mask, other than the one that we purchased from some lady in the building who was making them. But it's a very strange feeling when it comes time and you're reciting the Shema in the morning and you have to kiss your tzitzit. You come to that point. Do you know what it's like to kiss tzitzit through a mask? It is the strangest feeling, I think, that ever with davening. But the whole thing puts you out of sorts, to go to shul services outdoors. And this is not a hippie synagogue where they do things by the beach and, like all kinds of things on Shabbat. This is an exigency because of the coronavirus rules and restrictions, etc. So in order to set this up as a synagogue to do services, we didn't have an Oren Kodesh up there. So Torah scrolls were brought out and they were laid flat on a very long table in the front. So how do you do things like ark openings and ark closings and things like that at various points in the service? The Torah scrolls were wrapped in talitot, and when the ark was supposed to be open, they unwrapped the cover, the talit cover off of the Torah scroll, lying flat, etc. How do you do Torah readings when you're supposed to be social distancing? Well, on the regular services up in the field, there was a cone that showed you the distance away from the Torah scroll. The Torah reader basically didn't have gabayim on each side. The Torah reader was on his own with helping with the rolling to places and whatever. And basically in our upstairs outside service, the Torah reader read all the aliyahs. If there was a Kohen, they gave the Kohen standing at a distance to do the first aliyah, and then the rest of the aliyahs were done by the Torah reader, reciting the blessings actually after aliyah, not like an old Talmud way of doing it. But the maftir aliyah was given out to somebody else who then did the haftarah from the front. These are little things that you didn't think about beforehand before coming to shul. Rosh Hashanah, I felt, was a little bit breezy and chilly when you sat under these pavilions, which were set up already on the field because school had started at the SAR Academy, which you saw, that were at the school. And they had set up for outdoor classes, so they set up some canopies outside. So we were under the canopy, divided by tables on their side for the mechitza between men and women. Breezes did blow over the tables, so they got smart and they had to anchor the tables with other chairs and things on the other side so that the breezes wouldn't blow over our makeshift mechitza. And basically, it was chilly. I thought it was chilly. It's one of the few times I've worn a suit and a tie to shul. I certainly don't in Israel. And I got into the habit most of the time here. But it's, it's Rosh Hashanah. So I found it very cold. So I, during services, had to go, outside of where my seating area was into the sun, outside of the canopy. And that was a little bit better because it warmed you up being in the sun. So somebody had come over to me, and saying, so you're basking in the sun. This is basking in the sun with a face mask on, So like, I'm saying, Well, it says Alti Frosh Minat Zibor, unless you're freezing. So anyhow, we continued with services, and Rosh Hashanah went through okay. We didn't get sick, even though we're in the 70s, and we were all worried about all of that. Since March, we've been back in March. There were a lot of people didn't realize we were even back in New York because we weren't going out to a lot of things. I started going to Shabbat services just the morning when our granddaughter got married. We were really saving ourselves not to get sick until the wedding, which was in August. So people didn't really see us. And that's the setup, So Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur went by. Sukkot, we had an invitation from the local Jewish bookstore that we made out the checks to the synagogue, but we bought our lulav and etrog sets. So I bought mine, and I often discovered that what are in shekalim in Israel when you buy these sets, it's the same number amount, but it's in dollars. Like for instance, those little cases are 5 shekels in Israel that you buy with the handle, to hold your 5 shekels in Israel, $5 here. The lulav and etrog set that I got was an $85 set. So you think about this, I spend 100 shekels, for a set in Israel.
Can I just interrupt? For those of you who aren't familiar with the exchange rate, currently there's about 3.8 shekels to a US dollar.
Well, I'm just saying, it's a lot more expensive here, but
Right.
It always made me laugh. The Hoshanas that they buy, that they have at the synagogue, you have to give a donation of 5 shekels or whatever. I made sure that I brought money with me that morning, in bills, because I said, I bet they're going to charge $5 for that little bunch of willows, that you beat at the end of Hoshana Rabbah. And this is all stuff that, has to do with that. We didn't have a sukkah from the synagogue, and there wasn't a sukkah at the school. In town, there was a sukkah outside the kosher pizza place for people that were eating there. And we visited that sukkah to make the bracha when our older son came with 2 of his kids, the 2 boys, on Chol HaMoed, and we had a get together. Like to get through Sukkot, and now we get up to Simchat Torah, which is the holiday that's really of the brief year. Now, I don't know how many of you spend Simchat Torah and Shul in a normal year, right? So basically, in Israel, it's a 1-day holiday with Shmini Atzeret. In America, it's a 2-day holiday of Shmini Atzeret. The first being the Yontif day of Shmini Atzeret, and doing all of the serious things like Megillah reading, Geshem, the prayer for rain, which is for Israel, even though we're in diaspora, Yiskers, etc. That's on the first of the 2 days. Simchat Torah is a holiday in and of its own, with all other kinds of ritual. And it's my contention that it started as a diaspora holiday to do something with the Torah cycle, which is diaspora, and that to end, at that time of the year, with the Aliyahs broken up like in diaspora, even in ancient times. And we have a thing itself. Under normal circumstances, Simchat Torah is a very long day, whether it's in Israel or it's here. First of all, everybody's in a mood for, I always used to call official mirth. You know, you're expected to be joyful and jumping around and dancing and like all of that kind of stuff. Whether you're a dancer, or whether that's your personality, or getting drunk, or you know, whatever, like the things that go into Simchat Torah. Simchat Torah outdoors in a pandemic with masks and Torah scrolls lined up on a desk and things like that had to be very, very different. First of all, when it came up time to take the Torah out, we had all of the Torahs that the synagogue owned, which happened to be 7, lined out on this long table. 3 of them were rolled to the readings that, you know, we had to have for the ritual of the day. We very quickly started with the long introduction where you have this and everything like that before you take the Torah scrolls out and before all the festivities before the Torah readings are supposed to take place. So that went through very quickly, and we got up to the part where you have the Hakafot, the Hakafot, I should say, you know, the circling around. 7 Hakafot. Those who are familiar with synagogue ritual is that you got a tune, Hadoshem, Hoshiana, and you go through that, people repeat it and stuff like that. We're getting warmed up. Then there are certain verses that you're singing to the same kind of melody as that Hoshiana, you know, that are in the Siddur, and they're listed for that. Okay, so we all get up for this, okay? And we didn't take all of the Torahs. 7 Hakafot, took 1 Torah off the table. We're walking around with that. We socially distanced our circle, going out to the empty part of the big part of the basketball field. And we're going around. We do the Hebrew verses. The guy who's got assigned to do that is singing that. And 1 song like David Melech Yisrael, or, you know, some other kind of thing. I know that Simchat Torah, whether it was in Israel or it was here, these guys, especially the guys in their 20s, you know, who are in shul, they go on and on, they can't stop. It's like a point where, you know, even when I was younger with all of this, you know, I'd get to a point where I'd sit on the sidelines, you know, during these things. And you know, you're sitting with the other old guys and we're saying, okay, what Hakafot are they up to now? You know, like this thing dragged on and dragged on and dragged on. Here, it was the verse, 1 song, around back to start, and then the second Torah taken off, and the same thing through all 7. And that's how it went. A lot of people said we like this better. Like I said, you know, there's only so much mirth you can take. Anyhow, when we got up to the Torah reading, it's a custom on Simchat Torah that at least every male in the synagogue gets a crack at an aliyah. And in a synagogue that has a lot of people in attendance, you have several reading stations where the Torah is being read for getting down in the last aliyah of the Torah, the Sota Bracha, till, you know, you've satisfied everybody and we haven't finished the Torah yet. You know, so like we go over and over and over again. And this did not happen. This went through once with the 3 aliyahs, and they were done by the Torah reader. Boom, boom, boom. The rest of us just listened to the Torah being read. The next thing was the Chatan Torah. Now, it just happens by coincidence, and I almost forgot about it because it seems like it was 10 years ago. last year in Or Yehuda, I was the Khatan Torah. And, it's a big rigmarole. They take you in like you're really a Khatan, and they move you up there, and it's like it's a wedding, and you're going up to the Torah and all of that. This time, it's like somebody from there, I suppose the guys running the service knew ahead of time which of their friends they were going to call upon to be the Khatan Torah, and then the Khatan Bereshit. Very informal, very informal. They didn't have to sponsor a luncheon 2 weeks later, for the show by being Khatan Torah, and, no luncheon, and Khatan Bereshit. And then finally there was the Maftir reading, and then the Haftarah. The rest of it was like regular holiday, and we finished off services, and we went into Musaf and like all of the things. There wasn't all of the craziness with bottles of liquor, when people would come off of the Torah thing, or the Kiddush in the middle. No Kiddush, by the way. We did my normal time in New York. I was a very big participant in the Hashkama Minyan for Shabbat. And the main feature of Hashkama Minyan was that we had a sushi Kiddush, every week. That was after services. Anyhow, I felt this year that it wasn't so much Simchat Torah, but glad Torah. And I can't say that in Hebrew, because every time I wanted to find out how do you say glad as opposed to joyous in Hebrew, or happy, there's no word in Hebrew, for glad. Everything is sameach, for all of these designations. But I would say it was very toned down, and not so sure that this experience, didn't have its positive lights to it. And I'm still hoping that everybody is well. And all of our group experiences that we've had together, when we do get together with people, we have, thank God, not caught anything. I wash my hands like crazy whenever I go out and come back in, and that includes in the building. And so far, the two of us are doing all right. We've had our super senior citizens flu shots already, so I don't know if that's good or bad in terms of the COVID response, but it's the first time I really felt old.
Okay. I know at the end of these kinds of presentations, it's customary to open the floor for questions, but actually, I have a question for all of you. Under normal circumstances, even, I'm a very big online shopper. I like buying things online, even rather than going to stores. But during COVID-19 has been the first time that I've actually bought groceries online and had them delivered. And I was wondering if you guys could share with us some of your experiences about how you've been getting groceries. Have you been buying them online? Do you have friends delivering them to you? And what your experience has been with that?
Sylvia, would you unmute yourself?
Hi again.
Hi.
I can't go out to do my shopping. My carer has been going to do the shopping with a list, and she's been doing it herself and bringing it back.
Okay.
I can't do online. I'm not good online. I'm really not very good.
I've been shopping online through Romm and it's worked out great.
Yeah, I go shopping regular, but my brother in Jerusalem, I think they only do online now.
Okay.
I go shopping. I go to the supermarkets. I'm careful, wear a mask, and try to go when there are fewer people. But I go to the supermarket.
So Lee decided
thought-
that I would be the
I-
one who puts myself at risk, and I would do the shopping while she stayed safely at home. But actually, of course, we both used it as a way of just getting out, because otherwise
Yes.
we've been very
Yeah.
much staying at home, not doing stuff, actually not
Right.
been going to school either. I might go this Shabbat, Yehuda, so I hope you're here to show me where it is, because I may have forgotten the way. Because normally for everyone, I walk with Yehuda every Shabbat morning, and Lee walks with Diane. But obviously, we haven't had that pleasure for quite a while now.
We've not been walking. Not been going
Yeah.
to school.
We used online shopping on one occasion just before Pesach, and
From Supersol.
from Supersol, and one of the significant items that didn't arrive for Pesach were the matzahs.
Oi.
Yeah.
No, it was our daughter Aviva who had a lot, and she gave us a box. We wouldn't have had any matters. That was a great
Wow.
experience.
But since we were being pushed to have online shopping, not being allowed to go out to the village, we were very lucky that all our 3 kids did our shopping for us at one spell,
And
and then
visited.
brought it to the gate. We went to the gate to pick it up, and so that
Okay.
way we were able to see the kids for a few minutes from now and again.
Right. Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
we do our shopping ourselves. We've always got a reason that we've got to have permission to go out, and we always
Yes.
find a reason.
Okay.
And the other thing is that nearly all the supermarkets now have an express queue for 1 to 10 items.
Right. Yeah.
As a senior citizen with a special card that discounts the need to be in queues, no matter how much we have of the trolley, we can go into that queue and nobody argues.
Aha.
But you have
So
to reach a certain age. I'm not there yet.
Right. So in British English, you would call that
Here's the card.
jumping the queue with your trolley. Yes. So in American English, it should be cutting in line with your shopping cart.
No. This is absolutely 100% legal.
Yeah.
Right. No. Yes.
No, we only use it in the.
Do you have to wear masks outside?
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
unless you're on sports, you like for when I'm taking a walk, and I only found out from a policewoman, if I'm going like for my walk, my daily walk, like for jogging, although I can't jog, I don't need to wear a mask, but I do have it on hand because I will be by people some at the time.
Did we don't?
Right. Yeah.
In New York, we have to wear the masks all the time, and there's a fine if
Yeah,
they want
that is
to.
here
So
too. That is here too.
Yeah.
whether you're jogging, whether you're whatever,
Yeah, I
we have
understand
to
in the
wear
States it's
masks
like
in the
that.
building. I wear a mask to take the trash out to the garbage
Yeah,
compactor.
I wear a mask if I leave the door of the apartment, not
Right,
not
yeah.
the building. So if I'm going upstairs to check my neighbour's apartment, because she's away at the moment, I wear the mask, even though I'm highly unlikely to see anybody between our apartment.
I tell her to wear the mask at home. It's good.
Very funny, don't I?
Valerie Search wants to say something. Valerie?
First of all, I want to apologise. You can just call it a senior moment because I thought 4:30.
Yes, I knew.
Oh, Val.
I thought there would actually be more, than
Sorry?
I thought there would be more who would make that mistake, actually. But that's why I tried to emphasize this morning with the reminder that it was 4 o'clock. But don't worry.
Don't ask me why.
Valerie, you'll be able, if I do my technology bit right, you'll be able to see it on YouTube. So you'll be able to catch up.
Okay, so I apologise to Diane and Yehuda. I've never done that before, have I, Lee?
No, you haven't. Never.
That's online, maybe when I need a pass. And I do my own shopping because I'm sort of a bit bullshit. And I like to go around and I like to pick my own things. And if they haven't got the thing I want, then there's an alternative. And I had a row with my nephew at the beginning. I said, I'm independent. I want to do it myself. well, you know, we'll have to look after you if you get ill and so on and so forth. I stuck to my guns and I shopping.
Yeah. Well, one of the interesting aspects of the shopping online is that they give you sort of a chart showing where they are in the process. And there's a little chat box that opens up. So if the person who's shopping for you says, you know, you asked for these little mini peppers and they don't have them, do you want me to substitute something? And you can tell the person, you know, by through the chat box, yes, you know, instead put in 2 red peppers. Or you can say, no, I don't want you to substitute anything, just refund the money. Those of you who have shopped online, is that the same in Israel?
Corey, you want to say?
Well, I don't know if that, I don't think that exists with the big chains when you order online. We only had one experience early on in the first wave, shopping with Rami Levy, but I don't think they have that instant chat possibility. So actually we weren't that happy with that first experience. We've done a combination of shopping ourselves, mostly Eric, during the period when there wasn't an official lockdown. Eric has continued going to the supermarket. But during the 2 lockdowns, we've been able to use a couple of students who do personal shopping. So they will then, you know, you send them the list the day before and they will go over it in preparation and they will already ask their questions before. And while they're in the store, they call you if something's not available, just like you said, like the chat, Diane, and she will say, well, they don't have this, do you want this? And it's really worked out very, very well.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's good. It creates a job too for somebody.
Yeah,
which is
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, exactly. We're noticing while we're doing our own shopping in major stores like the big Supermarket in Nesha, you get a lot of these trolleys with the staff, the extra staff going round doing the picking for the online orders. So that's, you know, that's an extra thing that didn't used to be noticeable before Corona. Obviously, there was always some online shopping, but you weren't really aware of it. Now there's a lot of these trolleys with staff around doing the orders for the online.
Just for a bit of local information, Diane, the little Super Sol Express, you know, at the top of Hadassah, is absolutely fantastic, and we've used that a lot, just for, you know, filling in stuff you need during the week, fresh stuff. You know, Lee's really enjoyed walking up there. I come up occasionally. I come with her if she lets me. But
100 meters, when we had the 100 meters, not that there was a problem over the food shop, but that was within just about 100 meters from home. That new Super Sol Express, which isn't a huge store, obviously being the express level, but it has a huge variety of stock. You know, there is a large variety, so you can get almost anything you want, and good quality fruits and vegetables as well. So it's good. If anyone else wants anything about shopping, otherwise, we wanted to ask you, you know, how much social life can you have at the moment? You know, how much are you mixing with your family and with friends? Is there a possibility of doing so at the moment?
Really very limited. We've met with our grandchildren once or twice, where we've gone out to, they have not come to our apartment. We have gone out with them to a large park and walked around with them. So Yehuda had mentioned that our granddaughter was married at the end of August, and it was a socially distanced wedding. It was held in a wedding hall that was designed for 600 people, and there were 60 of us. We also ate outside. Fortunately, the weather was very nice, which of course is not always something you can count on in this part of the world. There was dancing, which was not particularly socially distanced. Our daughter-in-law had bought very lovely fancy gloves for everyone. So wore the gloves while we were dancing, which was nice. And of the 60 people who were there, almost all of us were related to one another, and were the Chatan's family. He's one of 8 children, so it's a fairly large family, and they've been in close contact with one another throughout this. So there was minimal interaction. Other than that, we have done absolutely nothing. We very, very rarely go out of the apartment.
Well, I've been going to shul.
Yeah, other than going to shul. But other than that, I would say that the one bright side of this whole period has been the fact that, like Hadassah, so many organizations have put up so much fascinating material online that you have access to the ability to participate in things that normally would not be possible. I'll give you an example. I recently literally fell across a 3-part series about synagogue architecture that was being done by a group in Orange County, California, which is the county where Los Angeles is. They have a Jewish scholars program, which they've been running for 20 years. Now, of course, under normal circumstances, you have to live in Los Angeles to be able to go to these things. And the speaker maybe would get 50 people. Well, it's now all online. He had 300 people at his presentation, and they were from all over the world. And they are also doing the same thing that Lee is doing with these sessions, where they're recording them and putting them up on YouTube so you can see them after the fact as well. In that sense, it's been very positive because you have an opportunity to really have access to a much broader range of things. Of course, the downside is none of it's personal.
It does help that you can see people. You're actually seeing.
You can see people. It's exactly like what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But you know, a real face-to-face interactions aren't happening.
We've been very lucky that in between the lockdowns at Hadassah, we've managed several face-to-face outdoor things. We had a meet at the beach. We had a summer supper at one of the members on a very large terrace, and then we did. You missed one of our breakfasts with the views, where we had Sammy Bennett spoke to us at Breakfast with a View just before Rosh Hashanah, which you would have been at if you'd been back with us, of course. I know.
Absolutely.
You often used to come. So we really have tried to do our best to actually meet with our masks and be really well behaved, distancing and everything, but try and keep the actual physical contact as well, because I know it's so important to everyone. So, and this weekly Zoom thing that we're doing on a Tuesday afternoon, normally at 4:30, where it's very informal and it's just whatever we want to do with it. It's just really to help people who are stuck at home and very often on their own, because so many of them are not in couples, they're on their own, and we're trying to give them a chance to see friends and acquaintances. Eileen, want to say something?
I have a question for them. I actually grew up in Yonkers, so I know.
Okay. Yeah, a neighbor.
And my favorite bakery, kosher bakery, was in Riverdale. We used to always go somewhere in Riverdale. So my question is, in order to keep your Israeli health status, I don't know, I'm an Olah Hadashah, so, but to be in Israel a certain number of days of the year or something? Isn't that right? What's going to
Well,
happen?
we're Israeli citizens, and you know we do go back and forth. The question of residency versus citizenship is kind of complicated. I mean, residency is typically determined based on either more than 180 days a year in one particular place, or I think the Israeli government also uses another calculation of 480 days within 3 years. For a while, they would not give us an Israeli passport. They only gave us a Tudat Ma'avar. It seems to me, which is a laissez-passer. It seems to me that maybe they're phasing out the Tudat Ma'avar, because the last time we went to renew our passport, they gave us a passport, but it's only good for 5 years as opposed to the normal 10-year period for a regular Israeli passport.
But it's a passport.
But it's a passport, right?
But the first passport is only 5 years, and then you get the 10-year. That happened to me too. You don't get 10 years right away. I think you get 5 years and then 10 years.
Yeah, right.
They've been here longer, Helen. They've been here longer than that.
No, the point being, our insurance, you know, is paid for. Like we're paying for the Israeli insurance constantly, as well as our insurance.
But you are definitely on the edge, though. I've always, you guys are absolutely on the edge, because you're 180, almost exactly 180 days both sides, and it's what you do with the other 5 days.
Right, exactly.
And I think you're quite lucky, in fact, with a lot of what you do get away with. But
yes,
good luck.
Probably very true.
They're going to have to be understanding under the.
Well, this year will be different anyway. They're not going to worry about it.
Have you any idea when you might be able to come back here?
Well, I assume that we're probably not going to be back until there's some form of vaccine available, because I think that more and more the airlines are probably going to, and the border agencies are going to require proof of vaccination before they allow you to come in. In the U.S.,
from Dubai.
You can come back and be in quarantine for a couple of weeks or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes. Pfizer here has made an announcement that they are very close to a vaccine. I would imagine that elderly people, after they vaccinate first responders, I would imagine that the next group they're going to go after are elderly people and people in nursing homes, because we're the most at risk.
And they were like the third line.
Yeah, so we're hoping that that will proceed apace. Israel also, I believe, is close to developing a vaccine.
But
We'll
actually,
see whether you guys get there first.
yeah, but Diane, I'm not sure, but I think quite possibly they might not go for that. I might say elderly people don't have to travel. They can stay at home. What we want to do is vaccinate all the people who've got to go to work, so we can get the economy back up and running.
And the soldiers.
So actually don't go first for the
That will be the next argument.
Right.
for the mature
that's
population.
also possible. Right.
But that'll be a fight. That will be a fight for sure. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm just surprised at your wedding that you didn't have the usual 6,000 people or so there, because I thought in New York that's what people are doing, isn't it, for weddings?
Well, Lee, we're going to have to depart. Our daughter is coming to visit us now. We're allowed family visits in the village, outside, not inside.
Right.
So
that's great.
nice to see everybody.
Bye.
To Mazal Tov again.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Have
you.
fun. Have fun with the family. Enjoy.
Bye. Yes, I saw something on television on Sky News about a district in New York, and I didn't catch which, where there are a lot of homeless and drug users and whatever users and things, and they were taking the homeless off the street and putting them into hotels that were closed.
Right.
What can you tell us about the situation of the poor section of society? It must be really struggling.
Well, they have in New York City, they've taken some of the homeless and put them into a hotel in an area of New York City which is, I would say, middle to upper class. The neighbors have not been happy with that, needless to say. And
they've been destroying the hotel.
And there have been attempts to move them. As of right now, I think they're staying put. But that's a very contentious issue, and will become more contentious as, you know, I talked about the trees changing color. While it's unusually warm in New York right now, we're certainly moving into the season where it's not going to be. And as we see more and more homeless people on the street when it really gets cold, that's going to continue to be a contentious issue, absolutely.
Anybody else got questions for Diane or Yehuda? Anyone else want to wave up?
I'd like to say, in New York, did you have many people dog walking? I live on the main road in Horeb. I am amazed how many people have dogs. They're just,
yes.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
Very
Our apartment
popular,
complex here in Riverdale actually has a dog park as part of the campus. People walk their dogs. They have these poles that have a box that you can take down the plastic doggy bags to clean up after yourselves. Some people are good about it. Some people are not. And at some point along the way, this apartment complex wanted to get tenants, so they advertised that they were pet friendly. I think that that was a very big mistake, because pet friendly wears thin when the pets multiply considerably. But we have that with dog walking. And of course, there aren't restrictions like of 500 meters or whatever that you can leave your place. My brother has a dog in Jerusalem, so his daily walk outside is under 500 meters with the dog and back. So I hate to think of what's piling up at the end of the 500 meters. You know, so basically, I'm not a fan of people having dogs, but if they want them and they have them, God bless them. A lot of people, it's like their children.
Yes.
What we don't have are the chazirei bar. We don't have the wild boars.
But what we do, you don't have in Israel, we have squirrels.
Squirrels, yes.
Yeah. Without inviting you, Yehuda, to say anything, I am really missing my American political education I normally get from you. The non-political associations, you're not allowed to say anything, but I just want to comment. I'm really missing that. So keep thinking about it. When you come back, you can re-educate me, okay?
I just want to say, though, the polling place and vote in person are safe, even for us. And we voted in the primaries in New York at our polling place, our normal polling place.
Right. Okay. Well, good luck. Good luck on November the 3rd, without saying anything about which side. Okay.
Right.
Right.
I know. I didn't say which side, and I didn't invite you to say which side. So, Lee, I'm following the rules, my darling.
Anybody else want to ask Diane to do anything? Yeah? Listen, I respect you.
Great. It was very interesting because I used to live in that area. It was very interesting to me. And what a beautiful view you have.
Yes, yes.
I lived in Yonkers. It was a similar view of the palace. I mean, there were points where I could go to see a similar view, but a little bit further out, but also of the Palisades. You know, I had some fun days of that. So.
Yeah, so you certainly choose apartments with wonderful views because you've got wonderful views here, Diane.
Right, that's true. That's true. Consider our criteria for buying an apartment.
So, like I always say, in New York we see an estuary, and in Israel we see a sea.
It was so good to see both of you, and of course everybody
same
else
here.
also.
Same here. And it should be lots of machol.
Yes, and it was very interesting to hear. And also getting back to the view, when you look over that view with the Washington Bridge, I couldn't help thinking that at the other side in New Jersey, that's where my daughter lives with her family. So
right,
right across.
And Corey's grandson goes to that school that we showed you a picture of.
Right.
Oh, no, sorry, no. Right, he goes to Frisch, sorry. Yeah, wrong.
Okay, he goes to the same school as Yehuda and Diane's grandson in New Jersey.
In New Jersey.
He goes over that bridge every day, doesn't he?
Well, actually, he goes over a different bridge, but that's okay. He goes over the Tappan Zee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for a lot of New Yorkers, you say New Jersey, so it sounds like it's on another planet. You know, the point is from them and
I can share a screen for a minute, but I've got the screen to share as well. It might manage to do it. I've got to go to this. Is it there? And there. Okay. Can you see it?
No. No.
Is it there? Can you see it?
No, I can see.
I can see your documents list.
Yeah, you got a document list. You haven't got the certificate, darling.
Okay, stop share. It wouldn't stay on when I had it. Oh, here's
yeah,
it.
but you can.
I have now. I can check now. Wait a minute. There and check. Okay. Now you should get it coming on.
Yeah.
Ah, that's lovely. Thank you.
So this is designed by our certificate designer par excellence, Valerie Serks. So presented to Diane and Yehuda with many thanks for your lovely talk. And we thought this was an appropriate, although we thought there might only be one shape of Torah this year, but we've given you two. So
not a lot of jumping around.
I know you like building up albums with photographs and things. You probably haven't got so many from this visit, except for the wedding, of course, which was our sent from us all on that. So we'll send you that by email, and maybe we'll add it to your album of this for this year.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So listen, thank you so much. And many of you can stay in chat if you want. Otherwise, we'll be sending you out tomorrow. Let me just move all again. Somewhere I was getting, that's the problem. If you don't use all, you get if someone's got background going on. Tomorrow, Barbara will probably be sending out the latest updates. It's not a full bulletin, but it's an update that we've done, an Oren update. So you'll just have a little note about what we've been doing recently and one or two save the dates and that kind of thing for the future. Everything is so uncertain, of course, that we can't be sure what will happen and what won't, but we'll do our best to give you an interesting program to keep us mentally alert in the coming weeks and months, okay? So listen, I will stop the recording in a second. If anyone wants to stay and chat, they're very welcome, okay? I'm going to pause the recording. I think I've remembered everything. Pause.